Hey everyone, and welcome back to That Disney Girl. So today let's talk about Epcot's newest table service restaurant, Takumi Tei. So Takumi Tei is a signature dining restaurant that you can visit when you head to the Japan Pavilion in Epcot, and I was able to try it before it officially opened during its soft open, so we're going to talk about what that restaurant had to offer right now. Takumi Tei is supposed to generally be an omakase style Japan restaurant. By that means that usually the chef is going to decide what you're going to eat. And you can definitely do this at Takumi Tei if you buy their preset menu, which is going to be $130. It's a huge tasting menu, but you can also do a la carte, and they have appetizers, entrees, desserts, basically anything you want you can get a la carte as well. If we just look at the name, we know that Takumi Tei means House of the Artisan in Japanese. And you can definitely tell that when you enter this restaurant and when you eat there. It's definitely going to be a little bit more of a fine dining experience, and it's going to have a price tag to match that. So if you want to eat on the cheaper side, definitely maybe steer away. But if you want to have an amazing experience, not only a meal but an experience, I really think that you should head to Takumi Tei. So let's talk about where you can find this new restaurant. When you head into the Japan Pavilion, if you go to the right, there's going to be a little passageway, and then you're going to hit a dead end and you're going to see that there's a host table there. Now this is really out of the way in my opinion. I actually had to ask a cast member how to find Takumi Tei because it wasn't out in the open. Then right behind that host stand is basically just kind of like a regular door. It definitely has some theming on it, but it's nothing too extravagant or elaborate, which is exactly what I thought it would be considering the hype that I was hearing about the pricing and the kind of food that you were going to get inside of this restaurant. But then I heard that the whole Takumi Tei entrance and your experience from that host stand all the way to your table was supposed to feel like you were leaving Epcot and going into Japan. And I think that by doing this subtly, they definitely hit the spot, because there are so many moments leading up to the moment that you sit down that you've really been hit with so much Japanese culture that it really definitely feels like you could be in Japan. So earlier on I mentioned that Takumi Tei is an entire experience in itself, and it starts and ends with the cast members' attention to detail. When you visit the restaurant, they definitely make a very strong point to make sure that you understand Japanese hospitality and culture. From the moment that we were greeted just at the host stand, we were bowed to, there were bright smiles on all of the servers' faces, and once they brought us into the main foyer of the restaurant, there were a bunch of different bowls that all had different meanings. They were going to represent a bunch of different natural elements of the world. So earth, water, stone, paper. Earth, water, stone, paper, wood. So they were earth, water, stone, paper, and wood. So each of these things has a significance and a high relevance in Japanese culture, and so our hostess decided to explain the importance of wood in Japanese culture. And this was about at least like a minute or 2-minute explanation. It was really detailed, and I definitely was learning a lot, and I could definitely tell that this cast member was really passionate about what she was talking about. So as we were headed to our table, we were the first guests at this restaurant and the only guests in the restaurant, and all of the other servers were lined up against the wall and they all bowed to us. And so the room that I was brought into was the wood room, which makes a lot of sense. Each of those balls that I discussed at the front, they have all those different kind of rooms throughout the restaurant, and they all have different theming and different things that go on within them. So the only other room that I think I'll pull special attention to would be the water room. The water room is a room that you need to reserve, and this is going to take at least 4 to 8 people. If you do this, you're going to have to get that omakase style dinner menu, which is going to cost you $130. So I found that the theming in here was awesome. It's very tranquil and peaceful, definitely very earthy. The music that was playing caters to all of that, so you will not feel overwhelmed while you're eating at this restaurant, which is an amazing break if you're at a Disney park. But how about we get into the good stuff and talk about the food? So we did not do the omakase style tasting menu, we just ordered a la carte, but we definitely tasted everything from an appetizer to an entree to a dessert, so I think I'm pretty well rounded in what this restaurant has to offer at the moment. So we ordered our food, but before we even got any of that food, we had our waters poured for us, we had our drinks brought into us, and then we had like a surprise little appetizer as a palate cleanser brought out to the table. So this was just like a tiny little portion that was given to us, and I'm going to explain what that was, but it was just kind of meant to be a palate cleanser, and it was something that we did not ask for but was just brought out to us by the chef. And it's also something that I've seen a few other people have posted about when they did that omakase style dinner, but maybe because we were the first guests in the restaurant for the day and the only guests in the restaurant, the chef just decided to create a little bit of a magical moment for us and throw something special into our experience. It was kind of like this grayish paste mixed with this teriyaki sauce glaze that was on top of it, and it was actually very delicious. I loved it. I thought that it was a great way to introduce myself to maybe something different and something that I hadn't tasted before. Definitely flavors I never tasted before. It went from something really sweet to something that really hit you pretty hard. Now for the appetizer that we got, which I actually ended up using as my main meal, was the ajidashi tofu. And by the way, if I mispronounce any names in this video, I'm really sorry. Of course, they're all new to me, so I'm just learning as I go. So this tofu dish was $19, which I think is a hefty price for maybe an appetizer dish, but this was a very big appetizer dish. It was really more filling than the entree that we ordered. So let's take a look. This is going to have a fried silken tofu covered in this like rice crisp paste with brown butter, black rice, some shimeji mushroom. There's going to be an original teriyaki drizzle, a carrot ginger puree, and lotus root. So right off the bat, I can tell you that the silken tofu has the name silk in it for a reason, and that is because this tofu broke apart and tasted like silk. If you're not a big tofu fan, I even encourage you to give this one a shot because it's not like tofu that I've ever had before. It was definitely not chewy, it broke apart very easily, and that rice little crisp that was around the tofu gave it a really different texture. And if we're talking about textures, the general manager actually came up to us and was discussing the chef's choices and mentioned that the chef here at Takumi Tei really loved to play around with textures. And I think in this dish, you were tasting at least 4 to 6 textures per bite. So you can also order sushi a la carte. So I got 2 pieces of salmon nigiri, and that was going to cost me $13. This is a bit of a hefty price tag, but when you taste the salmon nigiri, it was amazing. The salmon on top was so fresh. And once again, the service that came with this was amazing. Just the way that they brought out a special dish and poured out that soy sauce for me. I didn't have to do anything. So at the table, we also had an entree, and I'm going to butcher this name for sure. So here it goes. It was the Takumi Gyuniku. And what this was a artisan beef Japanese A5 Wagyu tenderloin with leek sauce, warashita, short rib gyoza, cipollini, onion, curried potatoes, and seasonal mushrooms for $93. So $93 is obviously a very expensive price to put on a dish, and I was really hoping that when we got this dish that it was going to live up to this expectation. And although I didn't order the steak, I was told that this steak was definitely a chart topper. I believe the chef said that it should be ordered at a medium rare, which is what we got it done as. So one of the coolest things that I thought about this dish was that not only were you going to have some Japanese Wagyu, there's a dumpling on your plate as well that is going to be filled with American Wagyu, so you can kind of taste the difference between the two and just see how Wagyu could taste differently depending on how it's prepared. If I remember correctly, I was told that this beef was salted perfectly. It broke apart like butter. It just made your mouth water. And although it was really small, it made you wishing you had more. I ended up eating the mushrooms that were on this dish, and it was mushrooms that I've never seen before. They were quite big, but they were really wrinkly, almost like grapes, and they were marinated so well. I mean, there were only 2 mushrooms on the plate, but if you're a mushroom fan and a steak fan, I think you're gonna like this dish. Only complaint that I would think about this dish is that it's really small. When we had it, you're definitely left hungry in the end if you're not eating anything else, so you're going to have to order an appetizer or split something with someone else to make this meal fill you for the day. But you know what, in this case, I think it might be okay because when you're in Epcot, you're definitely eating all throughout the day, so to have a meal that tastes really good but isn't gonna make you feel sick is maybe not always a bad thing. But also, if you're spending $93, I can totally see why you'd want to be full from this whole experience, so I definitely understand why that can be a little bit upsetting if you're still feeling hungry after a meal. And for dessert, we got the Surian Dani, and that was the Japanese water cake, which I was really excited to try because it just looks really cool. On top of this water bubble that looks like a giant raindrop that just won't break apart is this sweet glaze that they've put on top, almost like a brown sugar liquid, as well as these crushed up like graham crackers is what it kind of feels like and tastes like, and some flowers on top that are totally edible. Of course, the presentation for this, just like everything else, was amazing. And if you're wondering what it tastes like you're just biting into a whole bubble of water, and as soon as you chew down, it's like a water capsule explodes in your mouth. which maybe seems like it doesn't have too much of a taste, but the feeling of eating it I thought was pretty cool. And plus, once you add that sweet glaze into the mix, as well as those cookie crumble little bits on top of there, you're gonna get different textures, different flavors coming at you, something really refreshing by something that's really, really sweet at the same time, and they really balance each other out pretty well. This is a $16 dessert, and it's one that I would definitely recommend to anyone who's going to try Takumi Tei, just because I think it's a really cool thing to have experienced, but it's not something that I'm gonna get every time. It was really cool to do once, but it's not the kind of dessert that I crave. And then at the end of the meal, you're given a little parting gift, and it's these little rock sugar candies that are supposed to act like a palate cleanser. So if we just jump back to the experience of all of this, just the way that they bring the food out and present the food to you, it's not like any other server that I've ever seen at any other restaurant, and it seems like they're trying to go above and beyond. One of the servers brought me out this origami that she made, and on it she asked what my name was, and I explained it to her, and she wrote it out in Japanese, which was cool because I've never seen my name written in Japanese before. And then on the other wing of the bird, she looked at my Mickey ears and they had flowers on it, so she wrote flowers. So it was really personalized to me and dedicated to me. And then I was asking her if she knew how to make origami, if they just make a bunch of them in the back, and she was saying, yeah, she does. And she actually made that one right before she came out to the table. She just made it right from scratch. So I thought that was really cool that this is kind of something they're incorporating, is they're giving something that you could take home. And plus now it's on my desk at work, so it's a little Disney memorabilia that I could look at every day. So we have one final question to answer, and that is, would I recommend Takumi Tei to you? And the answer is yes. Of course, I would definitely recommend anyone going to Takumi Tei just because of the experience that you're gonna get, no matter what the price tag is that attaches to your bill at the end of your meal. When you go to Epcot and you go into one of the pavilions, what you want to do is learn about a culture, and I don't think I've ever learned so much about a specific culture as I did when I went to Takumi Tei and was able to have that one-on-one cast member interaction. And realistically, I was never able to explore Japanese culture the way that I did when I went to Takumi Tei, so just the fact that I was able to broaden my horizons in that sort of way made it definitely worth it for me. So if you want to go to Takumi Tei, reservations are now fully open. You can make those reservations on your My Disney Experience app. But just make sure that you know that this restaurant will open at 4:00 p.m. So it's more of a dinner service restaurant. So if you want to do something for lunch, maybe get a quick service and then go here for dinner. And if you're going to Takumi Tei, or if you've ever been, definitely let me know what you think you're gonna have or what you did have and how you liked it. And if you've enjoyed listening about this brand new Disney food location, you gotta make sure that you give the video a nice big thumbs up, and you have to make sure that you're subscribed to the channel to get your Disney content. Whether it's reviews, theories, or Disney history, we're gonna talk about it all. Now, I am going to head to bed and dream about some more Disney food, so I will see you real soon. Okay, bye everyone.